On a recent viewing of Blade Runner, I noticed that the mannequins in J.F. Sebastian's apartment building look very much like the ones in Killer's Kiss. This, along with the fact that footage from The Shining was used as the original ending for the movie, and the casting of Kubrick regular Joe Turkel, made me wonder whether there are any more, less obvious references to Kubrick's work in the film, and I think what I came up with is worth sharing. Most references that I could find were related to 2001: A Space Odyssey. Both movies are full of Pan Am logos. But what I find really interesting is that among the propaganda the blimps in Blade Runner spout for the off-world colonies, one can read Pan Am Shuttle. This is interesting considering that Heywood Floyd took a Pan Am space shuttle first to the Taurus space station and then a spacecraft to the moon manned with Pan Am personnel. The two movies feature video telephones with a very similarly looking layout and functioning, and both feature a Bell Systems AT&T logo on it. Video telephones appear in Blade Runner's source novel but are described differently. The part of the Voight Kampff machine that measures the eye movement to me looks very much like Hal. Hal and Betty also both manage to beat humans in chess. Both, of course, have an artificial intelligence. The scene in which Tyrell is murdered is very reminiscent of the ending of 2001. Pay attention to the way Dave and Tyrell are dressed and the decor of both rooms. In the movie, J.F. Sebastian suffers from a condition of rapid aging. This is a clear deviation from the source novel, in which he suffers from mental retardation. Rapid aging is, of course, what happens to Dave Bowman at the end of 2001. Pay attention to their makeup. I think it looks very similar. The hollow look of the animal's eyes in these scenes is possibly what inspired Ridley Scott to implement this technique in Blade Runner. Also compare these two shots. The second most references I could find were to A Clockwork Orange. In the final draft of Blade Runner's screenplay, Roy Batty is described humming Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. The ninth was of course very prominent in A Clockwork Orange. The little Kaiser Wilhelm figure in JF's apartment has a mustache and marches around like Chief Officer Barnes. And when we see the figure up close, we can see that he's having a long Pinocchio nose. And of course, during both burglaries, Alex wore a mask that also had a long Pinocchio nose on it. Zora has a pet snake that looks very much like Alex's pet snake. This could be incidental though. And I think the white makeup that Pris is wearing and the fact that she's wearing a wig is a possible link to the mannequins in the milk bar. In this deleted scene, Tyrell can be seen drinking milk. Also consider this line of dialogue.
Got a brainstorm, huh, Sebastian? Milk and cookies kept you awake, huh?
A Clockwork Orange and Blade Runner also make heavy use of eye symbolism. As for Barry Lyndon, there are two shots I find very interesting. The scared up doves at the end of the films and the two similarly dressed patients. Of course, the look of Blade Runner with its many candles and shallow depth of field is very similar to the look of Barry Lyndon. previously Ridley Scott paid homage to Barry Lyndon with his film The Duellists. A quick example of this is the casting of Gay Hamilton in The Duellists, who played Nora Brady and Barry Lyndon. A very clear reference to Dr. Strangelove can be heard in Taffy Lewis's bar. The announcer to Zora's dance sounds exactly like Dr. Strangelove.
Ladies and gentlemen, Taffy Lewis presents Miss Salome and the Snake. Watch her take the pleasures from the serpent that once corrupted man.
Technology required is easily within the means of even the smallest nuclear power. It requires only the will to do so.
And finally, a funny reference to Kubrick's work, I think, is the bear figure dressed as Napoleon. And yes, in the screenplay, it is specifically described as being dressed as Napoleon. And Kubrick, of course, tried for years to get a Napoleon biopic off the ground, and teddy bears are very prominent in The Shining. According to the screenplay, the Napoleon movie was to open and close with shots of the same teddy bear. Now, many of these things might seem incidental to you, and I'm not 100% convinced of all of them either, but keep in mind that none of them appear in the source novel, apart from the ones that I mentioned. Although I've never heard anybody point these connections out, I think some people got the joke. One of the endings of Blade Runner the video game is particularly Lolita-esque. It has the main character running off with an underage replicant. This is even verbalized in the game.
What happened? Where is it?
She got away.
How the hell did it get away? We had it cornered.
This one must be pretty damn clever.
What's the problem, Slim? If you can't even retire a friggin' Lolita, how do you expect to dance with a Combat 6?
It was a Tyrell sales brochure for the Nexus series, the kind of glossy hype that ends up littering the floor at trade shows. This one was for last year's infamous Lolita model, a big hit with the all-important dirty old man market.
While probably being a Kubrick reference, this could also be a joke about Blade Runner's screenwriter Hampton Fancher being the first husband of Sue Lyon, who played Lolita in Kubrick's film. If you're wondering whether Kubrick got anything out of Blade Runner in return, or if he liked the film, look no further than AI, artificial intelligence, which was a pet project of Kubrick's for many decades. AI's look, with its neon signs, wet, cluttered streets, constant downpour, exotically dressed pedestrians, and searchlights, is plucked straight out of Blade Runner. Apart from AI's overall look, the two movies share a number of similarities. Both movies feature androids that have to work as sex slaves for their human masters.
The foreskin job is Pris, a basic pleasure model, the standard item for military clubs in the outer colonies.
Walking teddy bears, a Gestapo-like police force with likely-looking police vehicles, and Pinocchio references. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, AI was directed by Steven Spielberg, not Stanley Kubrick. And you'd be right in thinking that, but keep in mind that many of the similarities I pointed out, like the neon signs, the walking teddy bear, the police vehicles, the Pinocchio references, and the android prostitutes, are present in Chris Baker's concept art for AI, which was developed under Kubrick's supervision. The aesthetic similarities, however, aren't that apparent in the concept art, and this could be down to the fact that Spielberg noticed the resemblance between AI and Blade Runner and wanted to emphasize that relation, or it indeed appears in unpublished concept art for AI. At any rate, I think the question whether Kubrick was influenced by Blade Runner or not is worth pursuing and could possibly be answered by Kubrick's estate with enough public support. So if anybody out there gets a chance to talk to either Jan Harlan, Cristiano, or Katharina Kubrick, please make sure to ask them one of the following questions. Did Stanley like Blade Runner? Was he influenced by the film? And are the similarities between AI and Blade Runner accidental? The latest news, which I hope I'll not commit suicide over, will also be an opportune moment to ask those questions again. I leave you with an interesting excerpt from an interview Joe Turkel gave recently. Thanks for watching.
This is going to knock you out. You're not going to believe it, but believe me, it's the truth. Twice during the course of the shooting, Ridley Scott came over to me. Joe, how do you think Stanley would have shot this?
Hello.
I've had people walk out on me before, but not when I was being so charming. I'm in a bar here now, down in the 4th sector. Taffy Lewis is on the line. Why don't you come on down here and have a drink?
I'm sorry, sweetheart, but I can't. Can't you think of anything else you want for your birthday? Something very special?
No.
Okay, now take care and be a good girl, won't you?